I attended another equally powerful symposium to celebrate children, because this month in the judiciary we focus on justice for children, and therefore at that conference we resolved to be asking ourselves every day, how are our children doing? So in the same vein, from this conference, we should always be asking ourselves how our land and how our environment is doing, because I think both the three are very, very critical to us: our children, our land, and our environment. Am I correct? We must also ask ourselves whether ELC has deepened access to justice. But that is not all. In addition, the 10-year anniversary celebration is also an opportunity to look into the future and think of the challenges that remain and those that are likely to emerge as the court begins its second decade, and how to tackle the challenges. Moreover, we must also look at the opportunities that will come with this second decade and see how we can exploit these opportunities to have a transformative impact in the Kenyan society. Our chief guests, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, one of the unique features of our Constitution is the level of attention that it gives around the conservation and management and sustainable exploitation of the environment, and what has been called RAD question locally and the survival issue internationally. Coming just after the Bill of Rights, our Chapter 5 of the Constitution on land and environment raise our transformative normative standards and the rules intended to enable the realization of the well-being of Kenyans through not only the protection and conservation of the environment, but also by ensuring ecologically we sustain the development and the use of our natural resources. We also have to address the issue of the equitable efficiency and productivity, as well as the sustainability of the land ownership, the land holdings, the subdivision, the multiplicity of subdivision of our land. When I was a trial judge in the High Court, in probate and administration court, I always wondered, why are people subdividing the land to such an economical units? And I always wondered, why wouldn't we think of changing our attitude to land ownership, and so that if a father or whoever is the one who has left the land for the family, they can own it in trust for them to use it without having to subdivide it to those small portions. But they kept on telling me, in Kenya, everybody wants to feel and to touch that they own an inch of land. So this is something going into the future we are going to look into and engage Kenyans in that conversation. The ELC is anchored in the Constitution under Article 162, 2 and 3, where it is envisaged that the ELC will be amongst the institutional drivers of the realization of the dream of how we can transform our land tenure, transform our environment and land governance through adjudicatory mandates over the questions concerning our environment and land. We must address how ELC will perform in the future, given the lofty aspirations that are articulated in the Constitution. I have read through the ELC casebook titled 10 Years of Dispensing Environment and Land Justice in Kenya, and I have noted some very notable outputs, and based on my own assessment of the case law generated by this court over the last 10 years, I can confidently say that the ELC has lived up to the expectations of Kenyans in creating a specialized court that is focused on access, that has pronounced the rights and duties respecting the environment and land. For that, we need to appreciate the ELC court. The case law from this court shows the emergence in our country of what I call transformative environmental constitutionalism. This is a jurisprudence that marries environment considerations on the one hand and social justice considerations on the other. The court is leading the way in forging a jurisprudence that embraces the integration and balancing of the environment, social and economic considerations in environmental decision-making. This emerging jurisprudence from this court shows that environmental law can contribute towards radical social change and the attainment of socio-economic equality and justice. It tells us that environmental considerations are not only important for sustainable development, but are also necessary for us to holistically address the plight of the vulnerable in our society. This is so because evidently those who lack access to food, water, sanitation, housing, and health care also often live in environments that are harmful to their health and well-being. The lesson that we must carry forward into the next decade as we celebrate these 10 years is that ELC must be at the forefront in championing a very progressive, social justice-oriented jurisprudence that ensures that we have a clean and healthy environment, an environment that protects the dignity of the people existing within it and enabling their well-being and enabling our communities to flourish. In addition, as we investigate our future and see how best we can navigate and make life better, we must appreciate that the new frontier in environmental governance is climate change. This is so as climate change is problematic. It has affected our environment and given us so many challenges. I can therefore speak like a prophet and say that the most complex and challenging disputes that will come to our courts in the next decade will not be those relating to presidential election disputes, as difficult as it was, or those regarding the constitutionality of the constitutional amendments, otherwise called BBI, as difficult as it is. What will play in our courts are the disputes which will deal with the adaptation and mitigation measures relating to climate change. And I hope, judges, you are hearing this so that you can gear yourself for very, very challenging times as you navigate this to protect our environment, as you navigate this to protect humanity for our own survival. Given that our commitment is to stay ahead of the times and to anticipate any complex issues that we are likely to encounter, I will be working closely with the Director, Kenya Judiciary Academy, and the entire Academy, and also the Principal Judge of the ELC to work towards enhancing training programs for the ELC judges in matters relating to climate justice as a matter of extreme urgency. I've already started a conversation with Justice Benjamin to see how many of you can go to Brazil to go and see what they are doing there, nurturing their own indigenous jurisprudence and systems. The land dimension of the ELC jurisdiction concerns a question that goes to the root of state stability, social harmony, and peaceful coexistence of our nation. And this is why our Prime Cabinet Secretary, we have embraced court-annexed mediation. We have annexed these open days activities to have discussions with the people on how we can solve our own problems, how we can empower our own people to solve and find solutions for the problems of land that they are dealing with. The so-called land question has been one of the vexing concerns that is always blamed as the root cause of the numerous conflicts that we experience in our communities. If we can remove the land conflicts in our society, I think we can just talk of very peaceful and harmonious coexistence. Therefore, the Constitution vested the Environment and Land Court with a huge and demanding mandate, and you have been equal to the task. In collaboration with other institutions and actors in the land sector, like the Land Commission, we must all work together to ensure that we play our law in mitigating and resolving these complex land problems. We must appreciate that the constitutional promise of equitable, efficient, productive, and sustainable holding, use, and management of land is transformative, and it is one that promises to ensure that we maintain our environment and also our land governance system that is characterized by fairness, not dispossession, by protecting our public land from land grabbing and other injustices that have contributed to inequality and poverty in our nation. The land question continues to occupy a central place within the transformative imperative signaled in the Constitution. Transformation requires change both in the distribution pattern of property holdings and in how we approach the acquisition, use, transfer, and protection of the land rights. The court must therefore balance several demands. Justice Wanjara just alluded to our colonial period where we were dispossessed of our land, and from there we have never seen land justice. Therefore, the demands of collective justice and the requirements of economic growth and development in a country where land is a key factor of production and a means for the alleviation and the reduction of poverty are equally central. This court is expected to develop the jurisprudence that advances the goal of reversing the effects and legacy of injustices in the land sector, and also so that our social and economic development can progressively bring the changes and the prosperity that is expected. The court's impact on our society is to be assessed on how transformative and friendly the court's jurisprudence and access is and has been in the last 10 years. Going once more to mention what has been documented in the casebook It highlights some of the landmark decisions the court has rendered in this decade. And I see an emergence of a jurisprudence that promotes constitutional goal of a land system characterized by improved security of tenure, equitable access to land, access to housing, protection from arbitrary evictions, protection of public land from grabbers, and arbitrary deprivation of property. All these cases are documented in your casebook, and they form a wonderful resource, especially for the lower courts and also for the higher courts. When we are determining issues of land, we look into it for guidance. I can say with confidence that there is already emerging from this court a line of thinking and an angle of approach to land jurisprudence that embraces and promotes social justice vision. This is the vision that we are implementing in the judiciary, which is drawn from the Constitution. 10 years of this court has therefore seen impressive progress in our land law jurisprudence, which is a steady foundation, and I encourage the court as we move to the second decade to build on that. One of the drivers of the court to create a specialized court for ELC matters was the perception that these disputes ought to be dealt with expeditiously. Kenyans felt and expressed themselves that the generalist constitutional jurisdiction of the High Court was not amenable to the efficiency and focus that needed to be given to resolve the land disputes and conflicts satisfactorily. This means that re-engineering service delivery at the ELC for efficiency is a topic that must concern all of us as we debate and reflect on the past and the future. As we champion the vision, which aims at improved institutional performance and includes the interventions and innovations that we must employ under our vision, I encourage this conference to debate and come up with game-changing innovations and proposals that the court can adopt to ensure that it attains the vision of being a center of excellence in the delivery of environmental and land justice. I encourage the court to continuously work in pursuit of the target of ensuring that its operations provide an enabling environment that ensures our Kenyans get access to justice and also reinforces the integrity of courts proceedings while enhancing the public trust in the judiciary. The court should continue in the path of optimizing its operations, the generation and use of high quality and reliable data to enable evidence-based decision-making, and leveraging on automation and digitization of its systems and processes to enhance our service delivery. As I conclude, I encourage the court to continue strengthening its ties with other avenues for dispute resolution in line with the statutory edicts that is provided under Section 20 of the Act that directs the court to use conciliation, mediation, and alternative traditional justice system in the resolution of disputes. Your Excellency the Governor, we have also agreed that we are going to start the alternative justice mediation suite here in Kilifi so that we can promote the mediation and the conversation with the people of Kilifi on how to resolve the land conflict here. Each one of us seated here this afternoon plays the role of one role or another in protecting the environment. That's why we are here, because we associate ourselves with what this court does, either for the land or for the environment. This is either through empowering wananchi, those who work in the civil society. We appreciate what you do by sensitizing them on the importance of protecting the environment. We also recognize the other government agencies, the constitutional commissions, who have put a lot of hours, time and money fighting and protecting the human rights that are associated with the environment and land issues. The core mandate of this court, which is to administer justice by upholding the environmental rule of law, access to justice and land dispute resolution, cannot be fully realized without the input and support of the various stakeholders in the environment and land sector, most of whom I see are here today and will be participating in this conference. So in line with our vision for the judiciary, we work towards deepening the partnership that we have already enjoyed and we continue to enjoy with the county government, civil society, our development partners, so that we can enhance coordination in the administration of justice. I encourage all the actors in the environmental and land governance sector to join hands with the ELC to work towards the realization of the constitutional vision of a socially just environment and land regime. I wish all the participants at this conference very, very fruitful, rewarding, mutual exchange of ideas and learning during the conference. And with these remarks, it is now my singular honor and privilege to invite the Chief Cabinet Secretary to present the message of His Excellency the President and for him to declare this conference of